My name is Jim McCardle and I live in Dublin. Originally I come from a town called Drogheda, a sizable town, but 25,000 people, roughly halfway between Dublin and the border with Northern Ireland. And I'm a retired police officer, a Garda, and I spent most of my police service in Dublin, approximately 35 years or so. Now, when I retired from the police force, the Garda, I've always had a keen interest in history in particular, and I always liked the idea of perhaps doing guided tours at some stage. So I tried it out, and I felt very comfortable with it, and so I eventually took up with this particular company here, Irish Day Tours. And I travel all over the country, both north and south. I find it very interesting, I have to say. I travel all over the country. Say, for example, today now, rather a long tour from Dublin to the Giant's Causeway. On our way back, we'll stop in Belfast. Tomorrow then, I'm actually doing a short day, a walking tour, historic walking tour of Dublin. After that, well, it could be Cork, it could be Cliffs of Moher, it could be Connemara in the west of Ireland. So literally travelling all over. I find with tourists, with older tourists, for example, and mostly people from English-speaking countries, such as, say, the US, Britain, Australia, and so on. The older ones who would remember, and bear in mind it was national news, or international news, I should say, you know, the violence and so on. They would be a little bit apprehensive, and they would be asking me questions. What's it like in Northern Ireland now, and so on. And I do try to reassure them that it is a very peaceful place nowadays. With the younger tourists, I get the impression they know about it, they've heard about it, read about it perhaps, but it doesn't really mean that much to them. Now, just in relation to Belfast, I'm old enough to remember what it was like here going back 30, 35 years ago at the height of the violence. And occasionally I would come to Belfast here, and again, you would have seen, unlike today, you would have seen barricades, you would have seen lots of heavily armed soldiers, police patrolling everywhere, and an absolute air of tension here. You just knew there was a division there, and there was an expectation that perhaps a bomb would go off, or a shooting, or whatever. Today, you come to Belfast, and it's very much a vibrant city, attracting loads and loads of tourists, and a colourful city if you look around. Back then, you would have seen rows of houses burnt out. You would have seen bars, shops burnt out, bombed, whatever. But a totally different situation nowadays, and a much more relaxed atmosphere. Perhaps young people would take it for granted that you can travel easily around, and it's a very relaxed atmosphere, and we no longer see violence and so on, and there is a tolerance towards one another. But they take this for granted, but personally I don't think they should. They should be very careful indeed. Younger people don't remember, but still it's very much in living memory, and if extremists are allowed to get a foothold here, to be able to take advantage of this so-called hard border, if it should ever come about, young people can get drawn in very quickly. History has a way of repeating itself. The next generation and the next generation after that. Things are passed on, divisions are passed on, old traditions and indeed old hatreds and so on. And it could happen easily enough, I think, if the extremists did find a way of stirring it up once again. So it's something we must all be very vigilant about. I'm often asked what drives me, and well, I suppose, firstly, family is very important to me, and obviously you have to provide for family. I have a relatively young family. That certainly keeps me going. And also, I have a great love of Irish history. Indeed, I have a great love of history in general. And I like my job, I must say. I really love my job, meeting different people, talking about Ireland, bringing people to different tourist attractions all over Ireland. And I get great job satisfaction if at the end of the day someone said to me, I really enjoyed your tour. That's something that drives me, I have to say. And at the moment, tour guiding is a big part of my life. And I'd like to continue doing it for some time to come.